Are y'all excited? Wow. Boy, you really need to be. With the kind of leadership that you have here on the stage, it's pretty easy to get excited. You know, and to see the great things. We're back here hiding. Come here, Paul. Here we are. Who are all these people?
I don't know where they came
What are they doing in our living room? Oh.
I wish we could take them home.
Can we take y'all home with us? What a great day. It's been exciting. You know, we've had an awful lot of fun. And in fact, we were on our way. We went for a walk this afternoon, and a beautiful red fox crossed the road right in front of us. I thought, man, that's just appropriate, you know, to be here in the UK and to see that. And, you know, we look at the great things that are happening and all the excitement. How many of y'all made a contact between this morning session and this evening? Because that's really what it's all about. It's out sharing the dream and giving other folks a shot at it, giving them a chance to win. And hopefully tonight what we'll do is just give you a rough idea of what it's been like in our business and what things have been like. And hopefully it's not too confusing. Because I remember we had Jerry over, and he flew over to the States to do a leadership function for us, and he talked a lot about that. And somehow, for some strange reason, that evening, his subject, he was on leadership and challenges and adversity, and somehow he got talking about sex. You know, because, you know, nothing, this business is a lot like sex. Nothing happens till you get excited, right? All right, and he spent the whole evening, he did it very, very tastefully, by the way. It was done quite well. And whenever he was flying back to the UK, he was thinking, I can't tell Mandy that I talked about sex. So what I will do is tell her that I talked about sailing. You set your sails, you catch the wind, you use the gales to move ahead, and all of that. So when he got back, Mandy said, well, how'd it go? He said, I thought it went well. You know, he said, we talked about sailing and how the adverse conditions you can overcome if you set your sails right now. And she said, that sounds great. Well, Polly rang up Mandy and you know, just congratulated her on what a fine job that Jerry had done. And Mandy was kind of taken aback. She said, you know, because really, he's only ever done it twice in his life. And she said the first time he did it, he got sick. And the second time, his hat flew off. You know, hopefully we're on a much better page tonight. You know what you get when you cross a midget with a vampire? A little bitty sucker, about that high. Just follow you around anywhere. But it's great to be here. It's kind of like the guy that was out there, and these three guys were talking. All of a sudden, this genie appeared to him. He said, I'll grant you each a wish. And so the first fellow said, you know, he said, I'd like to be twice as smart as I am. Genie said, you're twice as smart. The second man said, I want to be twice as smart as him. He said, you're twice as smart as him. Third man said, I want to be as smart as both those guys together. The genie made him a woman. Just like... This same genie, he's a little bit busy, but he was out there and well, actually it wasn't him. It was these three young lads were out by a swimming hole, and you know, just out in the country, and this fellow was drowning. So they jumped in and they went over and they rescued him and they saved him, and lo and behold, they found that it was President Bill Clinton. And Bill said, look, being president, he said, I'm one of the most powerful men in the world. He said, I'll grant you young fellows any wish you want. And the one young fellow said, sir, he said, I always wanted to be a general. He said, well, I know you're young now, lad. He said, but when you get older, I'll get you an appointment to our military academy and we'll allow you to become a general. The second young lad said, well, I've always had a desire to attend Harvard University and be educated by some of the finest educators in the world. President Clinton said, we will get you an appointment to Harvard University. Turned to the third young lad and said, what would you like, son? He thought for a minute. It was very reflective, and he said, well, sir, he said, I think what I would like is a burial plot at Arlington National Cemetery. And the president looked at him quizzically. He said, you, at only 12 years old, want a burial plot at Arlington National Cemetery? He said, why would you want that? He said, well, sir, he said, when I go home and tell my dad that I saved your life, I'm going to need it. They've actually what they've done is to double the security around Hillary Clinton, because they're afraid if something happens to her, he might actually become president. And we're really quite concerned. Ooh. You never know. Miracles do happen. I don't know what he would do if he were. If you get the idea that we're not real fond of him, you're right. But I think sometimes you've got to hit bottom in order to bounce, right? Like I said this afternoon, and maybe we did that in America with this past election. I don't know. But that's the resiliency of the American spirit. You know, we will come back again. You know, I mean, we did it from Jimmy Carter, and we can do it again. We'll go from selling peanuts. It's, to something else. You know what politics are? Poly is a Latin word that means many, and tick is a little blood-sucking animal. So when you put it together, you got many blood-sucking animals. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. I don't know if you've noticed, but did you ever figure out how you can tell whether or not a politician is lying? You know how you can tell? His lips are moving. If his lips are moving... I was out in western United States, and we were up in Denver, Colorado. It was very, very cold there. In fact, it was so cold I actually saw a politician put his hands in his own pocket for once. I thought, what a unique experience. It's just kind of interesting. But see, in America right now, they talk about the economic stimulus program, and that's what Clinton ran on as he wanted to become president, was a stimulus program to stimulate the economy, to stimulate families, and to move things forward economically. And I suggested that someone just go show him the plan. The marketing plan that we're working with, because I can't think of a better stimulus plan where you can help folks to preserve their pride and what they want to do and so on. Okay? Where you don't have to give them a handout. You don't have to say, well, look, I don't think you've got what it takes to make it, so here, we'll give it to you. We'll provide you with all this for free. I know it sounds real good from stage as he was going through the election process, but really and truly, I think what you need to do is provide opportunity for people. And there's no better business in the world than the one you and I have are very hands-on, where night after night after night we go out and we share the opportunity and we give folks a chance to dream. We give them a chance to recapture some of their youth again, to really stimulate their own economy and to make, to kind of grab a hold of their lives. And we're going to share with you a little bit of what it's been like at the diamond level, some of the little things we've experienced. And we'll start off with Polly and let her kind of share some things. You want to do this together? You want to do it alone?
Oh, don't do that to me now. I don't care. You want to do it.
Okay. Well, I'll let Polly chat with you a little bit because she gets long-winded, and when she gets finished, I'll come back out. Love you. I'm just kidding. You know what? You know what the difference between a housewife?
That was mine. As he was standing up here going after joke after joke after joke, and he has jokes covering this page and this page and this page and this page, I'm thinking to myself, I only know one joke. And then I thought, I remembered another one. And then he just started telling you. Do you want to hear it? You can leave. Do you know the difference between a housewife, a prostitute, and a mistress? A mistress says, slow down, this is great. A prostitute says, hurry up, time's money. And a wife says, beige. I think we should paint the ceiling beige. That's probably my number one favorite joke. One of the qualifications for Diamond is learning to laugh at your husband's jokes, even though you've heard them 10,569 times. Oh dear, it's kind of hard to get serious now after all that, but I guess we have to. They wanted us to talk about lifestyle of a diamond. And when I think back of how long it seemed for us to go diamond and the beauty of being diamond, it's hard to go back and remember what our life was like before that. You see, I came from a broken family. My dad was an alcoholic, and my mom and dad divorced when I was graduating from high school. And even though my parents didn't have a marriage that was together, I always knew that my mom and dad loved me. But what happened to me because of the situation at home, and I know a lot of you have gone through the same thing, when there's something wrong at home, it doesn't matter whose fault it is. It always seems that your children grow up feeling that the reason why the family is not together is because of them. And I could remember looking at my mom and dad, and I love both of them, but when they're arguing between each other, that you want to take sides, but you can't because you love them. And you feel, as I felt, and I know I have one brother, he felt the same way, that maybe if we weren't here, then maybe their life could be different. Maybe they would have enough money. Maybe my dad wouldn't have as much pressure, and he wouldn't be drinking. if he didn't have a family to support. And I can remember growing up with these feelings. And I would look at my mom and dad and think, you know, what can I do to make it better? And there, as a child, there is really nothing that you can do. And as I look at the family life that we're giving our children right now, I believe that's probably one of the greatest blessings that this business has given us as Diamonds, is giving them a family where they can look at their mom and dad, and even though we're not always perfect, and even though we don't always think the same way or, you know, get along all the time, at least they know we're working towards a common goal. And I had wished a lot of times when I looked at my dad as I was growing up and after we got in the business, I wonder what his life would have been like had someone showed him this business. You see, that's what you have in your hands. You know, a lot of you might be out there hurting tonight, but the biggest way to get over it, and I felt the thing that made me feel whole again, that healed me from all those hurts as I was growing up, was the ability to get out there and touch someone else's life and make them feel better about them. You see, I was in nursing when Jerry and I got married, and I always felt that in order to help somebody, it would have to be first hand-on-hand experience where I could wipe their foreheads, or I could give them a back rub, or I could put a bandage on their cut if they were hurt. It was something that I could see immediate results. And that was something that I was looking for in my life, because I always felt so much better about me when I helped somebody. And I could not see where this business of selling soap and sitting out there at functions and going into people's living rooms was actually helping them until we were involved in this business for probably a couple years. And as I save all the cards that we not only get from you people here, but from all the people in the States that we have touched their lives, if even a small amount, all I could say to you out there tonight is hang in there long enough to capture that feeling. Hang in there long enough to find out what it feels like to be able to get into somebody's life and help them smile a lot more. When Jerry and I got into this business, he was so hard trying to build it, and I kind of look at it as he was trying to build this wall, and I was the mortar trying to hold these bricks together. But I didn't have my act together when we first got in, and the mortar was either too wet or too dry too many of the times, and would cause all his efforts to tumble down again. And I know it was because I actually had a wall built up around myself that I didn't even realize was there. Like I said, I came from a broken home, and I was very much of a quiet child, afraid to bring anybody into my home for fear of seeing my dad and the drinking condition that he might come home in. Because of that, I didn't have very many friends. I was very unsure of myself. And it seemed like any little challenge that happened to me as I was growing up, I would put another brick on this wall. And when Jerry and I got married, I had such a barrier around me, you know, that when we were first presented with this Amway business, I saw it as a threat, as something that I didn't want to intrude upon our lives. I, at that point, was a spectator in our marriage already. Jerry was so involved in so many different things. He was teaching, of course, and I was nursing. And he was involved in coaching about 3 or 4 different sports. He was the head negotiator in his teachers association. He belonged to so many different clubs. And I was kind of just a tag-along, a person that could come and just watch him being involved in whatever it was that he chose. And when we were presented with this marketing plan, I knew our lives were already going in separate directions. And when Fred and Linda said, this is something you need to get involved in, I was bound and determined that I didn't want to have anything else put into our life where I had to stand back and watch Jerry perform. You see, I didn't understand what this business could do for us as a couple. You know, and as I stand up here and tell you what a diamond life is like, I have to reflect back and tell you a little bit of how I look back then and compare it to now. Because you see, life at home for us would be very different than it is right now. Jerry would still be teaching, I'm positive, and I would probably be nursing also, but probably just part-time because we would have our children. But it would still mean that our lives were going in completely different directions. But because we chose to hang it in there when it didn't seem like it was worth fighting for, when Jerry would go out and draw circles, when he was getting no after no after no, when he would look at me and when I said, I want to quit, Jerry, he would come home after having 29 people in a row say no to him, and I would look at him and I'd say, Jerry, this business isn't for everyone. This business is teasing our dreams. It's not for everybody. Why can't you see what you're doing to our family? And I can remember Jerry looking at me and saying, Polly, he says, I think you're right. I think we should quit. And we had a seminar and rally the next day, and I said, Jerry, I'm glad you said that, because I'm not going to another function where I'm going to sit out in that audience and I'm going to get so excited and I'm going to want this business, and then we're going to come home and we're going to get no after no after no again. I can't do that. Let's just quit. And he looked at me and he said, Polly, I said we're not going. I don't want to do this business anymore. And I can remember looking at him, wanting to pick up the nearest thing I could find and throwing at him, because I said, Jerry, after all this, you're just willing to give it up that easily? What are you, a wimp? And what he had done to me was awaken me to the pride that was building up in me, awaken me to the dreams of having them actually being snatched away by something that was coming out of my own mouth. And I realized at that point that I had a decision to make. Now, there were so many different times in our building the business where I had to make the same decision, but I can remember this one so clearly because I realized that it didn't matter how many no's we got. If the dream is still there, if the burn is still there, you keep going. You don't give up. And you know, a lot of times in a relationship, this is why married people are so special. When one quits, the other one tends to want to keep going. And Jerry and I had the ability of not ever quitting on the same day, at the same minute. And this is what you have to work for in your marriage. But because we did this, we kept going when we wanted to give up so many times. There happened to come one day when all our emeralds came to our home in a cavalcade of cars. And they had red, white, and blue streamers coming from the windows, coming from the doors. And they rang my doorbell. And as Jenny and Tara and I opened the door, they pinned corsages on each of us. And they said, come on, Polly, Jerry's going to be free today. And we got in this limousine and we rode up to the school where Jerry was teaching. And around, up in the sky, was flying a helicopter that had two big signs on both sides of it that said, Jerry and Polly are free. And that helicopter flew down in the parking lot and picked Jerry up. And Jerry and I were whisked away. And I'll never forget that day, because as we were doing that, our emeralds and some of the people in the business put the microphone into the car where the children were sitting. And they said to Jenny, our oldest, honey, what do you feel about this day? And Jenny looked at them, I saw it on video, and said, this is the best day in my life. My daddy's coming home to be with us all the time.